Chair, you are live.
Hi, everybody. Let me pull up my agenda here. I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's 4 o'clock on December 9th, 2021. I'm going to go ahead and call roll call. And when you hear your name, please say here. All right. Vice Chairman David Brown.
Here.
Here. Commissioner Parker Sloan. Christy Quinn. Buck Bragg.
Here.
Buck Bragg. Joe Ransmeyer. Sage Turner.
Good afternoon.
Tim Schaller.
Here.
Ben Williamson.
I'm here. Good afternoon.
Jane Matthews.
I'm here. Good afternoon, too.
Jeremy Goldstein.
Here.
Samantha Cole. And Debbie Giesenthaler. All right. We do have enough members, so we do have a quorum. I'll start with some opening remarks. My name is Darren Green, and I would like to welcome you to the December 9th, 2021 Asheville Area River Redevelopment Commission meeting. The purpose of the AARRC is to recommend to the city and county an overall policy for the continued development and sustainability of the regional riverfront. The commission provides recommendations to the city and county for effective management of the public resources for the districts and actively pursues and assists private sector investments in the districts. The commission is made up of 14 members representing the city of Asheville, the Council of Independent Business Owners, Riverlink, Asheville City Council, Buncombe County Commission, and the town of Woodfin. Our committees consist of planning and design review, networking and river economy, as well as transportation and mobility. All commission members and staff are participating virtually. We appreciate your patience as we work through the committee meetings a bit differently. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 166A-19.24F, this will be a remote meeting which the public can access by any of the following means. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on the committee page. We also have an option for the public to listen live by phone by calling 855-925-2801. The meeting code number is 9385 for callers to call in and listen. Send comments by email to Riverfront Commission December 9 at publicinput.com. For those of you out there with us today, welcome. Was there any public comment received in advance of this meeting?
I thought maybe David would answer that, but I have not received any right now. Thank you.
Okay. Sure. Thank you. In addition to pre-recorded and or email, we will also be taking live public comments for up to an hour. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes for public comment. Please call 855-925-2801. The meeting code is 4602 and press *3 to be put into the live queue. We do not have minutes prepared, so we are going to save that for the approval for our next January meeting. Our last meeting was in August of this year. So first I want to recognize one of our longtime commissioners, Jane Matthews. Jane Matthews is a name synonymous with the French Broad River and its development over the past 32 years. In 1989, Jane volunteered in the French Broad River Planning Committee, as well as a member of the 1989 Asheville Riverfront Joint Committee Charrette. This was followed by her involvement in the Asheville Riverfront Open Space Design Charrette in 1991. Through her contributions and vision, Jane would be an integral voice in helping to craft the Wilmot-Dykeman Riverway Master Plan, later adopted by City Council in 2004. Her connection to the river continued, and in 2010, she was appointed by the City of Asheville as a commissioner on this commission. Jane has chaired the AARRC Planning and Design Committee since 2015 and has been a strong advocate for design guidelines and integrating design with strategic economic development planning. Jane's guidance, intellect, and passion for the riverfront is clear to those who have followed her career, and I hope and suspect that Jane will continue to provide support for the ongoing success of Asheville's riverfront. Jane, thank you for your commitment on this commission and the many years you have spent advocating for the responsible development of this Asheville gem. Would you like to say anything?
Well, thank you, Darren. It's been a privilege. Of course, I was just a young child when I started. But I don't think I'll be going away. I expect it'll be a part of my life, the river. So,
Well, good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again.
And I know you all continue without me doing really good work. So
Thank you for your service, Jane.
thank you all.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Tim.
Jane, thank you so much. I'm gonna be calling you, trying to get you activated somewhere else.
Thank you, Sage.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Ben.
The city of Asheville especially thanks you, and so do I, for everything that you've been doing and will continue to do, as Darren said. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Well, I couldn't have done it without staff support, so thank you.
I just noticed Joe joined our meeting. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. I don't know how long I'll be able
Moving on to the next.
It's good to be with you.
Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Moving on, I've written a little in memoriam to Wendy, and I'd like to share that with you. And then I'd like to open the floor for anybody else who'd like to comment or has any words that you'd like to share. So I'd like to take this moment to recognize one of our beloved Asheville artists, Wendy Whitson, who served this commission with passion, enthusiasm, and wisdom. We lost Wendy to leukemia and other illnesses converging on November 9, 2021. Throughout her 22-year career in Asheville, she became one of the leading voices and strongest advocates for the artists in our region, but especially in the River Arts District. Over the summer, Wendy and I had a heartfelt conversation about her condition, and her positive attitude and zest for life are traits that I will always remember, as well as her infectious and beautiful laugh. We plan to craft a proclamation regarding Wendy's contribution to this commission to be featured in the 2021 annual report submitted to the City Council. I would like to open the floor to anyone who would like to share any thoughts or experiences they had with Wendy. David.
Well, I didn't know Wendy before I got on this commission, but because of her personality, that beautiful smile and twinkle in her eye, we became friends, and we talked over the years and text on different issues regarding downtown and the riverfront. She was just a fabulous person, one of the real pioneers of the River Arts District and a very valuable member of our commission, and she will be missed.
Thank you.
I think everybody in the River Arts District will miss her, and she's been positive was the word, and I know it came as a big shock because of her positive attitude in general, and I think she kept us all sure that she'd be getting through this. So it's a big disappointment, a big loss.
Thank you, Tim. I know, Joe, I saw you raise your hand.
Yes, I just want to say I've known Wendy quite a long time and served with her on the River Arts District Artists Board of Directors, and just I know the contribution she's made to the area, and not only to the River Arts District, but to Asheville, because she also owned property in Mexico, and they were so taken with her story that they visited here to try to actually emulate what we've done here down there in their town. So she's been an ambassador in that way, and will be missed greatly. So go well, Wendy.
Thank you. Steph?
I loved Wendy, and I just wanted to note that she put the community way in front of putting doing anything for herself. She always made sure that if there was an opportunity for an article to be in a national publication or for a tour group to come to the district, she told those people's stories and highlighted the artists first. And she's one of those people who kept the idea of making sure that the River Arts District remains rooted in the arts. And I just think that one way we can honor her is to do that, is that we can to try to make sure that we keep arts at the center of the work we do in there, or the creative commerce spirit. She also was, she celebrated my marriage 10 years ago in a way I won't share, but that was very personally surprising and loving. And that's just the kind of person that Wendy was.
Jane?
I think, as everybody has noted, I mean, she really went above and beyond in so many ways. And I know she really reached out to many of us, including myself, as a friend, and that really meant a lot as serving on a commission. You see each other, sporadically through our work and through the commission itself, but she made an effort to get to know us individually, which I really appreciated. And, I've got to spend time with her, and her art hopefully will live on and inspire lots of other people as well. So she will be missed dearly.
And one more thing. Last year, I spoke with her around this time because it was time to renew my membership at the RETA, and I was really, really, really short on money. And she offered to pay for my membership. She said, "You can't not be in the River Arts District Artists." And that's the kind of person she was. Yeah, I loved her.
Thank you, everybody. All right. We'll move on. Steph, I'm going to throw it to you. I've mentioned it briefly that we're going to start working on the annual report update for 2021, and as well as there's some election business that we have to take care of. So, Steph, if you'd like to take this.
Great. Thank you, Chair. So your annual report is usually due at the end of January to City Council, and we also send it to the appointing boards of this commission, the other appointing boards like the Buncombe County as well. And the way we're going to do it this year is the executive committee will frame up all the information that's going to be in the report, and you will review it on your own in advance of the next meeting, the January meeting. You do not need to vote to approve the annual report. It's just an administrative item that is usually prepared by myself or one of the staff people. But I do want to get nods from all of you and make sure that there's an opportunity to include some things that I may have forgotten or edit things that I may have gotten incorrectly. As Darren noted, we are going to be including a proclamation for Wendy in that annual report. So know that that's coming, and we'll be asking you to spend a little bit of time outside the meeting to address that. Secondly, your annual election through your bylaws, you are required to have an annual election every year. You had one in December 2020, and elected, is that right? Yeah, so a year ago, elected Darren at that time. What I would like to suggest to you is that with a few openings coming on this commission and the need to fill those seats, and a desire to have an annual retreat in the beginning of this year, that instead of having the election in January, we wait until you have a couple more members on board, perhaps February or March, to have that annual election. It gives you some time to let me know about any people that you may want to nominate, and the positions available are chair and vice chair. I do know that Darren Green has agreed to allow his nomination for chair, and we're waiting for David Brown to let us know if he has the ability to continue being nominated for vice chair, but they're both open to any other nominations. So I'll be running that as an item at your February or March meeting. Does anybody have any objection to us waiting a couple months? And continuing on. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steph. Now, something we spoke about in our
Yeah.
executive committee meeting. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
Jeff, this is mostly a wrap up of what we've done in 2021. Is that right? Or
Yes, the annual retreat will include items that you've worked on. I think you'll have a lot of focus on things like the prioritization that you did in the beginning of the year of work items and division into subcommittees. ARPA application, which is going to be discussed later on, some other
but the report, the report you're talking about, is that for what up until now, or is that
Yes,
into the next
that's
year?
exactly right. Yep, up until now.
I know it doesn't seem like it, but the ribbon cutting for the Greenway was in February or March.
It
was cold.
It was in April, and then
April.
Yeah, from April 20th to May 20th, basically, or April 22nd to May 22nd is when we had that series of, it seems like 3 years ago. But
Yeah. So
yeah.
there has been some things that have happened this year that we can. If there's no more questions or comments about the annual report, just be on the lookout for that. We'll end up just sending that out as I would assume probably a Google Doc. And so we'll just communicate through those comments or emails back and forth about additions or edits. All right, I'll move it on to the annual retreat. It's something that we spoke about in our executive committee meeting this week. And David is going to share some thoughts and throw out some ideas on that.
Well, those of you that were on the commission 2 years ago will recall that we had a planned trip to Chattanooga to visit their riverfront and see what they had done and some positive things we could take back from that. Unfortunately, as you know, that was canceled due to COVID, as so many things have been. But in our executive committee meeting Monday, we talked about doing something locally here, and we thought we would incorporate it with our regular April meeting, have our Zoom meeting, or if possible, a get-together meeting, but probably a Zoom meeting to go over all our business. Then the second half of it, we would get together, go through the River Arts District, potentially or possibly take the trolley if we do the deal with the art museum and see how that route would be. Possibly visit some of the businesses, let them know that we're active and concerned about how they're doing. And then towards the final end of it, maybe we could have a little get together at one of the local watering holes and have an adult beverage and some camaraderie. You know, we haven't got anything in stone at this, so any suggestions you might have as we go along, we've got time to get this put together, and other people we might want to invite in the community, but just give that some thought, and we'll discuss it further as we go along.
Thanks, David. Does anyone have any comments or questions or thoughts?
What are we thinking? A 3 or 4 hour like afternoon meeting, or lunch in the meeting? Or I know one time we did that at the Smoky Park Supper Club, but what are you thinking, David?
Yeah, I think we could incorporate lunch if we had an earlier Zoom meeting for the business. Yeah, that's the type of thing we want to just continue to have an open conversation on, and any good ideas, bring them forward.
Okay.
David, thank you. So I want to make a mention. Jane will be departing this commission at the end of the year. So there is a city council appointed position available. The deadline is December 20th. It would be wonderful to find someone in the design industry professional that could fill that spot. If there is anybody that you have in mind, certainly ask them if they're, willing. And I know there's a process, so we can send the link out, I think, after the meeting for any potential commission members. And let's try to, we're going to have several openings, so that the commission is going to look, different. And so we want to definitely try to have those folks that have some knowledge and expertise in certain things that we're going to be, dealing with in this region. Tim?
Did I hear you say that the application or the name had to be in before the 20th or by the 20th?
Yes.
That's pretty soon.
I did think of someone, and in fact, I wanted to share the flyer that came out, but it said I didn't have the permission to share it. So maybe you can send out a link to that. Okay.
We'll go ahead and get a link out to all the commissioners. And yeah, Jane, since you're in the industry, if there's anybody that you think would be a good.
Yeah, it's always good to go to the professional association. The American Institute of Architects has an Asheville staff person, and I can send that to Stephanie, but I would think that, letting them know through that venue would be a good one.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on. We're going to talk now about the newly formed committees. I know those had a start, and then they've kind of sat dormant for a little bit, but our goal at this point is to create some ongoing meeting days and times. And also I'll share some, Joe is here, and he and I had a conversation, and I'll let Joe explain his involvement with the other committee. But I'll throw it to Tim first to talk about the committee that he's chairing.
Well, we have met, and actually Christy and Patty and Dima from Biltmore Village have been meeting separately, talking about flooding. With the help of Steph, quite a while ago, we met with Biltmore Village and started to get communication between the two, between Biltmore Village and Riverfront, between RAD, about what we can do to notify each other, what the city can do to notify us when flooding happened, when the roads are going to be closed, when they're going to be open, all that kind of stuff, which becomes an issue when it's an issue and sometimes forgotten afterwards. So I appreciate that Christy and Patty are working on that. But just recently, Darren and I, Darren mostly in the beginning, worked hard on getting our long-held idea of a trolley from the museum down to 8 River Arch Place. We've been talking about that for probably 4 years. And with some funds coming through the city and a grant application in, we sped through a couple of weeks of getting the application in. Has it been 3 weeks now, or it'll be 3 weeks on Monday, Darren?
It was the 15th, right?
Yeah.
15th of November. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, yep. So it's been in. I'm trying to find out, haven't gotten a response yet from the city. What we were asking for was funding for 3 years, basically, of with the idea that if it could be funded after that, I'm fairly confident that through advertising, through use, if we could keep it going. I will say we got really great cooperation and partnership from Jay at Asheville, what's the name of Black Wall Street, Asheville, at Riverfront Place, and that he wrote a really great letter. Lucius with Radba wrote a great letter. I will say that Vic at the TDA or Explore Asheville, I was really surprised. I mean, I told her basically the signature was as important as the content, but the letter was really useful. I will put a shout out to my wife who edited it for us and put it into English that maybe the council could enjoy reading, though she has her MFA in poetry, so maybe they can't read it. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. But anyway, that's in. So what the plan is in the next, probably right after the holidays, I'll send the calendar out or one of those, ask for what dates will work and try to do, I'd say quarterly is my thought at the moment for the larger group to meet, because we have subgroups within our committee. So if we could have just a regular meeting set and put it on the calendar, I think that would help it keep going. So.
Thank you. I'll add a couple things. One, while Tim and I worked on quite a bit of it, it was submitted through RADA, which is a 501c6 nonprofit. So it was actually submitted through RADA. We just helped put the pieces together. There was also a nice letter from Pam Myers at the Asheville Art Museum, who would be a supporter and has a role as a cultural concierge, and would like to start sending people down to the River Arts District on an easy form of transportation. I believe that happens currently. They do send people down to the art district and to different galleries to acquire art, maybe that they've seen similar versions of in the museum. So, we really reached out to several different organizations and pitched this concept, and they were all very supportive. So, Sage, do you have an update? Where is it?
Sorry, I don't have an update. I did learn that there were over 70 applications, I think for $74 million.
Yeah. We'll take that. We'll take those odds.
We'll be reviewing them. The timeline is pretty quick, so there'll be lots of activity around it in January.
In January? Okay. Thank you. We got to save your voice too. Sorry, I forgot you.
It doesn't hurt. It's fine.
So Tim, you're not talking about purchasing a special trolley. This is one using an existing trolley from a trolley service.
Yeah. We've been working with them for 4 years with the different ideas on how to fund it, and the running of it. They do that well. It's like, why reinvent that wheel at this point? If it became something that was so popular that the city wanted to put it in the transportation plan, maybe that happens in the future. But it's important to get it started. Parking is always going to be an issue in the River Arts District. So, and just if you're a tourist and staying in the hotel, knowing you can walk over to the museum and find the River Arts District on your short stay has to help the district. And Julie Bell was the one from RADA that really helped us on the submission, because the way it worked is each nonprofit could sponsor one application. So we got the application together, but needed somebody to work with us, and she did a great job.
I just want to say thank you, Tim and Darren. That's a lot of work to do, and I appreciate it. I think that'll be an important addition to the river. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Just gave us an excuse to hang out and have coffee. All right, I'm gonna.
Be a band on it like they have on the Lazoom. No.
Oh, a band?
No band.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah.
If there's no more questions for Tim and in that committee, I'm gonna throw it over to Joe. I had a conversation with Joe. We have not had anybody step up to chair the Stormwater, Water Quality, and Public Safety Committee, which is also a very important committee. And I may have convinced Joe to step into that chair role. And so I'll let him share some thoughts on that.
Well, I told you I'd be glad to do that. I mean, unless there may be a meeting or two that I have to ask for backup on, but that's in the short term, hopefully. And I'd like to get together with the others on that committee and, focus more on what our goals are. And right now we've only really had one meeting, and we still had a lot of things kind of out there as to how we wanted to focus our energies. But stormwater is a big interest of mine and certainly a big impact to the River Arch District and the general river area. And I'm also connected with Riverlink, and we have a large, stormwater restoration project starting up, and I think that'll be a good connection. I hope to actually bring one of our stormwater people onto our committee as a member, outside member, because of her extensive knowledge. And our new executive director has a PhD in hydrology, so I've got some resources that could be helpful to us. And I think it's probably the best fit for me as far as the two committees go, and I look forward to getting in there and making a difference doing it.
Well, thank you for your service and for being willing to step in that role. I think one of the, if I remember, one of the outcomes of our first meeting, or one and only meeting so far, was that we were looking to create a panel discussion with a number of different committee members from other committees throughout Asheville City Council, as well as, Parker Sloan is on this committee, so having his involvement would be helpful too. So, maybe that's what we put our efforts in, is to create some sort of a panel discussion that would be likely on Zoom, that would at least connect these different commissions and nonprofit leaders. So there's not a shortage of folks that are working on these things. And I think I look at it as our role to aggregate a group to actually have this discussion together. Because I think a lot of our concerns, others are working on them. And so I think just having that discussion and connecting might be our most beneficial role in this whole conversation.
Yeah, we talked about other things as well, including possible flood mitigation and things like that. But that we decided was beyond the scope of this committee. I mean, we may, discuss that some, but it's not. It can't be the main focus, because that probably requires a committee of its own. So anyway, we'll explore it and see where we can make a difference.
Thank you. So, what I would suggest, Joe, is to put together some days and times, and let's share those with Steph so that she's available, or someone from the city who can be a part of this meeting, and then let's try to find a date and time that works, and let's, I'm certainly available to support that.
Thank you. We'll do that.
Alrighty. The next point is it's all about noise. I don't see Rachel here. Oh, there she is.
All right. Yes, so I've got a few updates on the Haywood Bridge project, which is DOT's project over there. I got on the phone with them on Tuesday, and so the blasting and priming should be completed. at this point, and the large blasting rig has been removed and will not be back at that site for that project. So the next steps for the bridge is painting work, which should be less disruptive as far as noise goes. They're going to be painting 3 coats along the underside of the bridge, starting with putting down additional containment first, and starting on the east side of the bridge, and then hoping to get done with that half of it by January 1st, and then moving across the river to complete the other half. And they anticipate wrapping up all of the painting work by February. And the final phase of the bridge work will be rehabbing the decking around April, and they estimate that will take about 2 to 3 months. And so what that will involve is removing the top 2 inches of concrete and replacing it with more resilient materials. And they will work on that phase in sections. So they'll narrow the bridge down to 1 lane with temporary signals, mill the deck, do some hydroblasting, and then replace that with the modified concrete. Then they'll also repair the expansion joints on the ends. So that's the latest I've got from DOT. But they have said that the sand blasting on the underside was the most disruptive as far as noise goes. So hopefully the rest of it will be much less disruptive.
Thanks, Rachel. Does anybody have any questions for Rachel or comments? Or
No, I'd just like to thank Rachel. She's really handled it well, keeping us informed. Getting back to people really helps quell the panic, and I think it's worked out well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, for all your hard work and making those uncomfortable calls. It's not easy, so thank you.
No problem. I'll try to get some regular communication going soon.
May I ask a question, Rachel? The businesses in the area, did they get your update?
I'm sorry, what?
The businesses in the area of the bridge, will they get that update from you all?
I've been updating the River Arts Business Association with those updates and emailing the executive committee. So that's been our process so far.
Jane, you had a...
Yeah, I appreciate the information. Thank you, Rachel. I think that would be helpful if the city had some plan as to let traffic know, because that's a major thoroughfare to West Asheville, especially during rush hour. And I hate to see people heading down that way and the road being gone and have to turn around and somehow come back up the hill. It'd be good to somehow get the word out sooner than later so that people can plan, and maybe the city can think about where people are going to go and what the effect of that might be. If it's going down South French Broad or some other road that might create a problem, in those areas, to be proactive about it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll work with them. It shouldn't, to my understanding, as of a conversation on Tuesday, it will not be closed completely. They'll narrow it one way to allow, but it will cause some backups. I'm sure.
Yeah, one lane traffic is going to create a backup. People get frustrated and start looking for other ways to get around it.
Mm-hmm.
So it might impact other neighborhoods, Wecan or South French Broad neighborhoods. So
I'll work with DOT on that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Rachel, thank you again.
Well, I had one question. I mean, if they're actually going to remove 2 inches of concrete, that sounds noisy to me. But I don't think that's going to be done with hydroblasting.
I can double check on that part was that was the first time I had kind of heard of that phase of the project. So I will double check on what the noise impact will be and just kind of what we need to be anticipating as far as that work goes. And then I will follow up once I get that information.
Thank you.
I'm going to move on. Since we already spoke about the ARPA grant, we're going to move on to the open space update. Steph has a short update on that process.
Sure. As you know, for the open space recommendations, they were developed from a task force that included several members of this commission here and other members of the community. One of the recommendations that came out of that was to look at the entire form-based code area and change some of the zoning requirements in that area regarding open space. And in the form-based code area, there are 2 parcels that are on the fringe of the River Arts District. They're actually in the South Side community, and those parcels were acquired by urban renewal. Because they were acquired by urban renewal, they are subject to a resolution that City Council passed that said that no rezoning should take place on these parcels at this time. And this is an action that was done to make sure that City Council and the community would have time to better understand any implications of zoning or development proposals for parcels that were acquired through urban renewal and how that might interact with the now, I'm so glad to not say upcoming, but the now ongoing reparations process. Yeah, so what you need to know is that because there's those 2 parcels in that zoning area, we have a short pause on open space recommendations to council. So whereas we previously said we were going to go to council in the beginning of January and have them look at approving certain changes to open space regulations, that will be continued to a later date, probably not too much later, but to a later date. Sage, do you want to say anything about that? Did I get that correctly from the council? POV?
Yeah, great.
Okay.
As a reminder, those parcels are the Wesley Grant Center and the fire station number 2.
Yep.
That's not including the Choctaw Street property.
Those stretch all the way to Choctaw. Well, the form-based code doesn't go past South French Broad.
Okay.
It doesn't go up Choctaw that way, but it includes the parcels that he was talking about on the west side of South French Broad.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Steph. Now I'm going to turn it over to Councilperson Turner to give us a City Council update.
Sure. I don't have a whole lot prepared. I assumed that what you'd want to hear about was the Ramada, and I'm happy to say that we are making progress on it. There was a meeting last night that was recorded that you can go back and watch, but at this point, we could not pull together all of the right funding agents and partners in enough time to make the Ramada really work. I think we all understand there's a great need for a high access, low barrier shelter in the community. It's a missing link in our housing community and housing solutions, but it doesn't appear that this location will come together in time. So what has happened is an alternative solution. Another need in the community is what we call PSH, permanent supportive housing. You may have heard that term around the Days Inn on Tunnel Road and the Homeward Bound project earlier in the year. And this is a similar model. It would have about 100 to 115 residents, approximately half of which would be veterans, and it would be permanent supportive housing. And there's an outside group, a development company from Los Angeles, and a nonprofit partner called Step Up. And they would own and maintain the properties, and the city of Asheville would contribute to acquisition or support services in the beginning, ultimately to move them onto their own programming. So we are looking at that. There's another meeting today with neighborhoods. It's ongoing. It is on the agenda on Tuesday. I'm happy to answer any questions around that, or if you have any subjects you'd like to hear updates on.
Sage, do those acquisition funds come from the ARPA grant, or are they from a different bucket?
ARPA. Mm-hmm.
Oh, they do.
ARPA.
Okay.
Yes. And to date, I was just looking at kind of what we've already set aside, because we did the Days Inn. We've done a lot of about $3 million in hotel rooms. So we've done a lot around homelessness, and I hope that story gets more shared and soon, because collectively we have been either helping establish groups that can do the permanent supportive housing, or we've been partnering with wraparound services and growing relationships with them to do the temporary solutions. So I feel like we're attacking it at all these angles, and yet there continues to be a problem. So, we're doing what we can. I could update you a little bit too. I got an update on Apd Staffing, which may be of interest. So they're still holding about 40% down. There are 9 cadets that have made it through their cadet training first round, and now they go out onto the street for, they have a specific word for it, and they train for 2 more months in that, and then they are established on their own. And the next group has 14 in it and starts in January, and it's about 6 months to get them going. What I was told was approximately next fall, August, September, we may feel that we're better staffed and able to handle more of the city situations.
Does anybody have any questions for Sage? Okay, thank you.
I do support the trolley idea. I'll show you that.
Oh, fantastic.
Well, I have one, Sage. I mean, there was told that the DOT broke up this homeless camp today or yesterday. Was there anything done or suggested for those people, or are they just pushed off?
No, it's a great question. I'm glad you asked, because we also have found a deceased resident named Richard in the tent, and at that location, and there's some heartbreak in the community around that. We don't have any. I was working on this all day because I've been unsettled by it. We don't have any more available hotel rooms to put folks in. We did activate Code Purple. You may have heard, I believe December 1st or 2nd, and there are 2 shelters in place. One for men, one for women and children. We have upped their beds based on last year's data and some of what we've seen. So we have about 50 for men and 8 for women and children, which might sound small, but is actually more than the average needed. And when we have Code Purples, then folks can go into these shelters, and the rules are a little bit different congregating. And one of my ideas is perhaps to lighten the Code Purple qualifiers. So like last night was a Code Purple night, so those folks were able to get sheltered if they wanted it. However, tonight is not a Code Purple night, but Saturday is, and Sunday is, but Monday isn't. So I'm just wondering, we're trying to brainstorm if you have solutions, but what seems to be the best emergency response for these folks in the middle of winter in a pandemic is to get emergency shelter. And the Code Purple seems to be our best resource for that right now, since all the hotels are full. Does that help your question, Joseph?
Yes, I just wanted to know that they had some resources that were being offered, and if they just get pushed off their campsite and onto Patton Avenue, what happens?
It's such a hard situation, and it's so complex. So, I keep telling folks we're trying to establish all the groundwork to make this problem resolved in the future, but it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of partners and strategy. It's going to take a lot of money. And I think what we've been doing with the hotel rooms has been really helpful to folks. We've actually, I think the last statistics I heard of 47 folks that had been in the temporary housing and hotels had secured employment and housing. And that's a statistic that's like 10 years worth of previous work and attempts. So, it's showing that it's working, but capacity is still a problem. We'll continue to work on. If you have ideas, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Sage, do you have a sense of like an average age of homeless folks in our area?
We have what's called a point in time count. I could send that. I'll put a link in the chat. Breaks down all the demographics. I can't remember if there's an average age, but there are some charts.
Do you know? Thank you. Do you know if the number is growing? Do you see the homeless population?
No, this is what's interesting. It's actually been pretty flat.
Okay.
And about half of our considered unhoused are actual veterans, because the veteran hospital doesn't allow them an address, but they are there. So it's a little bit of a jumble. And then we have such a strong and great veterans hospital that more people come to it. So the number fluctuates. We're helping them, we're resolving unhoused folks, and then more are coming. And it's solution based, it's always moving, but the average is about 550 persons at any time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mhm.
Tim, you had a,
Yeah, Sage,
Yeah.
that adjusting the code purple really makes a lot of sense, and thank you for pursuing that. I know it's only a short term, it's a Band-Aid, but as Joe was saying, the Band-Aid is needed right now, so thank you for digging into something.
Yeah, we're looking at things like wind chill, like what can we make it factor in? And there is a wind chill factor already. And, yeah, but I agree. And,
No, I know. I mean, at the Wedge, we've always temporarily housed people, under, but then it becomes a big problem and they don't want, thank you. I'm glad somebody's doing something. So a lot of people are doing something. So thank you.
City staff are working really hard on it too. It's been pretty tremendous.
Ben had a comment. I'll go ahead and read it. From Ben Williamson, apologies, but this is where I remind everyone we have $25 million in occupancy tax funds each year going primarily toward tourism marketing. Some of those funds would help this issue and many others immensely. Thanks, Sage, and others for your hard work in this very difficult area.
Sorry, Darren. I could have spoke. I didn't want to go off on that tangent. I just wanted to slide that in the text. I know we can move on the agenda, but thanks for reading it for me. Appreciate it.
No, absolutely. I think, we have to make sure everybody has access to that. Sage, thank you for all your hard work and your support, because we know that a lot of these folks ultimately end up on the riverfront, and these are things we were discussing when over the summer and over the spring, and so likely we'll continue to see that, but hopefully there will be some additional help for these folks. This is off script, but maybe Sasha or Steph, do you have an update? I've been walking the Greenway, and I've noticed that the west of the west side of the Greenway is really making some tremendous headway, and I see cars driving along, so clearly there's a path wide enough for automobiles now to drive. Do you have an update on when you think, any updates on the completion of the west side of the Greenway?
Right now it's tentative because they're in initial phases of construction, but we hope to be done by the end of next summer.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Darren, I have to jump off and go to the BizWorks meeting, so
Oh, thank you, Tim.
I'll see you later. Bye.
All righty. Thanks for being here. Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to bring up or discuss or questions before we adjourn? Mr. Brown.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I saw on the agenda that Rachel was supposed to also comment about affordable housing. Did we?
I took that off the agenda for Rachel. Rachel and I coordinated on this, an update for this project. The project that was in discussion is a proposal by the Haywood Street congregation to build affordable housing just on the north end of the Weekend neighborhood. And the project did pass through TRC this past week, and it's on its way to planning and zoning. But this, I wanted to get a little bit more of an update for you about the development impacts and about the comments received by the Weekend neighborhood, since your purview does include understanding the concerns of the area constituents in the greater riverfront. So we're just working to get those together, but from a process standpoint, it is moving through development and review.
Thank you.
I have one question, Steph. Do you have any further information about the startup of the Red Lofts property? specifically, they had said, or I had heard it would start up early in the year after the closing
Right?
on December 26th. And I'm just wondering if do they still plan to make Robert Street a one-way during the construction phase, or?
I do not have an update on that. I'll let you all know as soon as we have, there are the correct permits in place and that we get any kind of applications for road closures. And closures include partial closures and changes to traffic control, including sidewalk closures. So we'll let you know. Absolutely.
Any other business that y'all would like to discuss before we end the 2021 year? Alrighty.
We don't have a county representative here today.
I'm sorry, we do not.
He would have just updated you on the Ramada, but I'll tell you that this has been my first year on the Riverfront Commission, and I have really enjoyed y'all's meetings and your processing, your personalities. It's been great, and I'm glad that this worked well into my schedule, and I'm able to meet them, attend them every time. So, good job, everybody. Thanks for your volunteer time.
Thank you. We're happy to have you. Steph.
Yeah, I just wanted to note for some people, if they hadn't heard, that Peyton O'Connor, who's been attending our meetings for quite a while now, is leaving their employment with Buncombe County as the Parks and Recreation Director. So we will be getting a new staff liaison at some point, and I'll let you know when we hear.
Congrats to Peyton. I hope it's a positive move for him, for them, excuse me. Let's see. All right. Do we have any public comment for live callers?
We do not have any comments.
Well, that's sad. All righty. I usually throw
Happy holidays to everyone.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, David. I mean, in years past, we'd have a little holiday get together. So hopefully we run into each other around town. I usually throw this to Tim Shaw, or, is there somebody that would like to make a motion that we adjourn?
I'll make the motion. How's that?
Perfect. Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Good to see you all.
Take
Stay
care.
well, all.
Happy
Thanks, everybody.
holidays. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.